Hello friends. They say every zodiac sign hides a secret language of desire, but Scorpio is the secret. To understand them, you have to dive, not wade, into the dark water, the place where emotion and instinct fuse into something nearly sacred. This is not a sign that flirts with fire, they become it. And once you've met a Scorpio on that level, spirit, mind, and skin, you never really walk away untouched. After watching, if you'd like to support the channel, click the thanks button right under this video or use the donation alerts link in the description. Your support really helps me keep creating. And of course, if you enjoy the content, please give it a like and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Thanks so much for being here. Now let's continue. The magnetic mystery, attraction as a ritual. You don't meet a Scorpio, you feel them. It's not the kind of feeling that flutters like butterflies or skips across the surface of the skin. It's heavier, deeper, like gravity itself has quietly shifted to pull you closer. The moment their eyes find you, you sense something ancient at work, something that doesn't rely on words or gestures. They're not merely looking, they're recognizing. As if, in the crowded noise of the world, they've located the exact frequency of your soul and tuned in with absolute precision. The Scorpio gaze is not accidental. It lingers, tests, and studies. It's an unspoken question: do you dare to be seen this completely? Their eyes hold an intimacy that belongs to another realm, a place where masks crumble, where pretense dies quietly, and where the truth of desire begins to stir. That's the first moment of the ritual, the invitation to surrender your facade. Scorpio doesn't seduce with performance, they seduce with presence. They don't need to charm because their energy already hums at the pitch of curiosity and danger. You feel your pulse change tempo in their presence, as if your body knows long before your mind that this person carries a certain kind of power, one that doesn't shout but whispers directly to your instincts. They aren't interested in what's visible, they want what's buried, the hidden emotions you've labeled too much, the fears you never confessed, the parts of you keep locked away. Scorpio senses them immediately and, with surgical precision, begins to peel back the layers until what remains is raw, honest, trembling truth. To them, that is eroticism, the meeting point between your fear and your willingness to reveal it. Every glance from a Scorpio is an X-ray. They don't just see the body, they read its language. The way your breath quickens, the way your hand trembles slightly when you lie, the flicker in your eyes when desire and fear collide. Scorpio catalogs it all, not to control, but to understand. Understanding is their foreplay, knowledge, their drug. They crave the total mapping of another human being's emotional landscape. Words, when they come, are rarely wasted. Each one feels deliberate, coded in meaning, spoken with the slow rhythm of someone who knows the power of silence. When they finally say something intimate, when a Scorpio leans close enough that their voice brushes against your ear, it feels less like conversation and more like invocation. You're not just listening, you're submitting to the gravity of it. For Scorpio, sexuality is sacred. It's not a pastime or an impulse, it's a ceremony. Every encounter is a test of authenticity, a ritual that measures how much of yourself you're willing to bring to the altar. They see sex as an energy exchange, not an act. And that energy must be clean, honest, charged with intention. Anything less feels like sacrilege. To enter their world is to step into a slow, deliberate process of unveiling. They will not rush, they'll take their time, studying your emotional weather, learning the shape of your silence, the taste of your laughter. They want to know how you hide and why. Because for them, true intimacy begins where defenses end. They don't want the version of you the world applauds, they want the one you hide in shadows. Their attraction works like a tide, subtle at first, then unstoppable. You might try to resist, reasoning with yourself that it's just chemistry, that you can handle it, that you'll stay detached. But Scorpios don't play by the rules of detachment. They play by the rules of inevitability. The closer you draw, the less you can tell where their will ends and yours begins. To Scorpio, every lover is a mirror reflecting something essential back to them. They approach connection as a form of transformation, alchemy in motion. Sex, for them, is never just about pleasure. It's the crucible where identity melts and reforms, where the lines blur between dominance and surrender, where vulnerability becomes ecstasy. They want to feel you not just beneath their hands but within their psyche. When a Scorpio touches you, it's not random. Each gesture has intent, each pause a purpose. They trace not only skin but meaning, trying to read the hidden script your body carries. The touch of a Scorpio can feel like confession. You find yourself remembering things you never meant to share, speaking truths you didn't know were waiting to be spoken. That's their magic, unlocking what you guard even from yourself. The intensity can be frightening. There's a reason so many are both drawn to and terrified of Scorpio energy. It demands honesty. It demands that you meet them on equal terms. They'll sense falseness instantly, and their interest will evaporate faster than smoke. But show them your truth, unfiltered, unpolished, and they'll meet you with a passion that feels almost holy. This is the paradox of the Scorpio ritual. It requires surrender, but never weakness. They don't want to possess you. They want to merge with you, to dissolve the illusion of separation. Pleasure is merely the surface rippling above the deeper current of connection. The act itself is the language through which they say, "I see you. I accept your darkness. I invite you into mine." In that moment, boundaries cease to exist. You are not two bodies but one current of energy, looping endlessly in mutual recognition. The outside world fades, irrelevant. There's only breath, heartbeat, pulse, then silence, vast and eternal, as if the universe itself has paused to witness the union. Afterward, they will not need to speak. The ritual is complete. You'll feel it in your bones. Something fundamental has changed. You've seen yourself through their eyes, and now you can't return to pretending you are small. That's the Scorpio gift and curse. They awaken, they transform, they burn away illusion. It's why their desire feels so different. It's not lust, it's not possession, it's alchemy. You entered seeking pleasure and left reborn, wondering if what happened was physical at all, or if you somehow stepped into something eternal, something divine disguised as desire. That is the magnetic mystery of Scorpio. Attraction not as accident, but as sacred ritual. The invitation isn't merely to touch or to taste, but to know and be known beyond the edge of comfort. To step willingly into the fire and emerge purified by it. Emotional depth, the ocean beneath the flame. If other signs approach intimacy like a dance, playful, rhythmic, full of steps learned by repetition, Scorpio approaches it like a storm. Their love doesn't breeze in politely, it thunders, rearranges, and drenches everything in its path. Beneath the calm, poised exterior of a Scorpio lies an emotional ocean vast and restless, constantly churning with waves of intensity that few ever see. They hide it well, not because they wish to deceive, but because so few can survive its depth. For Scorpio, emotion is not a feeling, it's a force of nature. They do not simply like or admire. When they care, they merge. When they desire, they consume. And when they love, they transform. This isn't exaggeration, it's their natural state. They live in extremes because moderation feels like half living. Each heartbeat echoes with meaning, each connection must matter, or it isn't worth the energy it takes to sustain. Their calmness often misleads people into thinking they're unbothered, detached even. But that composure is merely the surface of a depth so profound it could drown the unprepared. Underneath is sensitivity so acute it borders on psychic. A Scorpio doesn't just listen to words, they feel the truth beneath them. They read the tremor in your voice, the hesitation between breaths, the micro-expression that betrays your fear. They sense what you're hiding, and they don't judge you for it. They crave that hidden pulse of authenticity. When they fall in love, it's never tentative. They don't dip a toe to test the water. They dive headfirst, eyes open, lungs burning with the thrill of surrender. The danger of it doesn't deter them, it's the point. Scorpio seeks experiences that shake them to the core because through shaking, they know they're alive. Love, to them, is not a comfort, it's a revelation. They do not chase chaos for the drama of it, but for the meaning buried within. They crave significance the way others crave safety. Their soul is allergic to superficiality. They need to feel that what binds them to another human being has weight. They would rather endure heartbreak carved deep into bone than live in a tepid half-feeling that leaves no scar. The scar, after all, is proof that something real once lived there. A Scorpio's passion is measured not by how often they love but by how completely they do. One authentic night, one moment of mutual vulnerability, means more to them than a lifetime of polite affection. When they touch you, they are not merely tracing the architecture of your body, they are mapping your emotional geography. Every shiver, every sigh, every involuntary tremor becomes a landmark, a way to navigate the landscape of who you truly are beneath performance and pride. They remember the tiniest details not because they are obsessive but because they are fully present. They are there, not distracted, not half in. When you laugh and your voice cracks with unguarded joy, they store that sound like a keepsake. When you confess something that scares you, they etch that vulnerability into memory. They don't forget, because they feel. Feeling, however, is both their glory and their undoing. To live as deeply as Scorpio does means existing in constant exposure. Every joy cuts deep, every wound carves deeper. They can't love lightly, and they can't forget easily. The same emotional depth that makes their affection transcendent also makes their pain almost unbearable. They don't bounce back, they rebuild from the ashes. When hurt, they withdraw not to punish, but to survive. Imagine the sea pulling back after the storm, silent, dark, still trembling with power. That's a Scorpio after heartbreak. They disappear into their own currents, resurfacing only once they've processed every drop of feeling, every lesson, every nuance. Their solitude is not loneliness, it's recovery. They heal by dissecting emotion until understanding replaces chaos. But when they love with the entire ocean. Their devotion isn't spoken in grand declarations but demonstrated in quiet consistency. They'll remember the things you forgot you said. They'll anticipate your moods before you name them. They'll protect you without fanfare, standing guard against unseen threats to your peace. To be loved by a Scorpio is to be known, and that kind of knowledge is both a comfort and a reckoning. Their depth also means they demand truth in return. They won't settle for the edited version of you. They want the raw draft, the messy, unfiltered pages. If you try to hide behind charm or pretense, they'll see right through it, and worse, they'll lose interest. But show them your fears, your contradictions, your shame, and you'll awaken their respect. Scorpio doesn't crave perfection, they crave realness. In intimacy, that emotional honesty becomes electric. Their passion burns not from novelty but from connection. The physical act is just the outermost layer of something much more profound, a meeting of souls that leaves an imprint long after skin forgets. They can turn silence into conversation, stillness into tension, a glance into an entire dialogue. With them, emotional and physical become indistinguishable. One bleeds into the other until there's no line left to draw. The beauty of this emotional depth is that it elevates love from comfort to transcendence. Scorpio teaches that feeling isn't weakness, it's the truest proof of life. They remind you that to be vulnerable is to be brave, that to surrender is to evolve. When you love a Scorpio, you don't just experience affection, you undergo transformation. And yet, the same current that carries you upward can pull you under. To love a Scorpio is to accept that storms will come, that intensity is their language, and calm waters are their silence before the next surge. But if you learn to swim beside them instead of resisting the tide, you'll discover the rarest kind of connection, one forged not in convenience but in truth. Because beneath every flame of passion they ignite lies an ocean, vast, tender, dangerous, and endlessly alive. The storm is not a threat, it's an invitation. To feel, to trust, to dive without knowing if you'll surface the same. And perhaps, in the heart of that storm, you'll understand what Scorpio has always known, that the deepest love is not found in stillness, but in the wild, unrelenting motion of the sea itself. The power play, control, submission, and surrender. In the realm of sex and intimacy, control is Scorpio's favorite language, but not in the crude or mechanical way that word often implies. Their control is psychological, a slow orchestration of trust, tension, and revelation. To Scorpio, intimacy is a stage for truth, and truth requires courage. They want to guide you to the outer edges of your comfort zone and show you that the greatest freedom often begins at the point where resistance breaks. For Scorpio, the essence of power isn't about dominance for its own sake. It's about awareness. They understand energy, how to move it, direct it, heighten it, and channel it. In their presence, you feel the charge in the air, an invisible hum of potential that seems to vibrate beneath your skin. They study this current between two people with the precision of an artist and the focus of a scientist. Every glance, every pause, every breath becomes part of their unspoken choreography. They don't rush. Patience is their secret weapon. Scorpio knows that real power never needs to announce itself. It's silent, deliberate, undeniable. They wait until you reveal yourself, until your body language betrays curiosity, until the balance tips and the space between you becomes magnetic. That's when the game begins, though to them, it's never really a game. It's an exploration of vulnerability dressed in mystery. Power, to Scorpio, is never limited to the physical. The body is only the entry point. What they truly want is your trust. The kind of trust that allows you to unmask your inner chaos without shame. The kind that whispers, "Can I give you my shadow? Can I trust you not to turn away when you see it?" This is the question that hums in every Scorpio interaction, and your answer determines how deep they'll take you. When they sense resistance, they don't push, they circle it. They become curious about what you're protecting. Your hesitation fascinates them because it tells a story of fear, control, repression. Scorpio wants to understand that story, not to break you, but to free you from the parts of yourself that hide. When they sense courage, that willingness to stay open in the face of intensity, something inside them ignites. They're enchanted by bravery more than beauty, by emotional risk more than perfection. There's always a quiet danger in being with a Scorpio, and it's not because they mean harm. It's because they awaken things. Desires you buried, emotions you dismissed, dreams you were too careful to name, all of it starts to surface under their gaze. They mirror your hidden hunger so perfectly that you can't tell where theirs ends and yours begins. It's disorienting, exhilarating, and terrifying all at once. You may think they're controlling the moment, but the truth is more complex. Their mastery comes from intuition, from reading the unspoken rhythm of connection. They sense when to advance and when to retreat, when to apply tension and when to release it. It's not manipulation, it's communion. Scorpio treats intimacy like a sacred current, something that must flow evenly between two souls. And yet, beneath all their composure and command, there's a secret truth. Scorpios don't seek to dominate others, they seek to dominate themselves. Their intensity, their mystery, their careful control, it's all armor built to contain their own vast emotional power. They fear losing control not because they want to own others, but because their own feelings are tidal. Without balance, they could drown in them. Every act of dominance, every moment of restraint, is an act of self-preservation. Scorpio knows that emotion uncontained can consume everything it touches. So, they learn precision. They turn their chaos into art, their hunger into ritual. Control becomes their way of surviving their own depth. But when they find someone who matches that depth, someone unafraid of the dark, someone who meets their gaze without flinching, the walls begin to fall. Their control shifts from defense to devotion. Submission, then, becomes mutual. Because the real seduction in Scorpio's world isn't about who holds power. It's about who can surrender to truth without losing themselves. Surrender, for them, is the ultimate act of strength. It's saying, "I trust you enough to let go." It's the moment the storm softens into calm, when both people realize that power is not a weapon, but a shared heartbeat. Scorpio thrives in that equilibrium, the space where dominance and vulnerability coexist, where two souls balance like twin flames, neither overpowering, both consuming. And once you've been there, in that charged silence, that magnetic stillness between control and surrender, you understand what makes Scorpio different. Their passion isn't a game, their desire isn't selfish. It's the spiritual pursuit of merging while remaining whole. They want to see if the human soul can expand without shattering, if two energies can collide and still emerge more complete. Being with them means learning the paradox of passion. that letting go is not weakness, that yielding can be power, that surrender can be the bravest form of control. You discover that what they've been showing you all along isn't how to obey, but how to trust. Because that's the secret heart of every Scorpio encounter. Beneath the power play, beyond the mystery, behind every calculated breath and lingering glance, lies one raw truth: they're not trying to control you. They're trying to master their own fear, the fear of being seen so completely that they lose the illusion of control altogether. Their intensity, their allure, their command, all of it is self-defense wrapped in seduction. And yet, paradoxically, it's that very vulnerability that makes them irresistible. Because when Scorpio finally drops the mask and lets you see the truth, when they allow surrender to replace control, the connection becomes something neither of you can name. It's not conquest, it's communion, not domination, but revelation. The moment where both realize that power was never about who leads and who follows, but about how deeply two people can trust each other with the truth of who they are. That's the Scorpio power play, not a game of winning, but of becoming. The loyal heart, when Scorpio truly loves. Underneath the seductive surface, Scorpio's real secret is loyalty. It's not loud, not flashy, not easily declared. It's something forged slowly, through trust tested and proven, through intimacy that survives silence. Once they've chosen you, you cease to be a fleeting fascination, you become a sacred bond. A vow, a gravitational pull that doesn't fade when distance enters the room. To Scorpio, love is not an experience they have, it's a world they build, brick by brick, in secret. And once you're inside that world, you're not a guest, you're a citizen. Their loyalty is not the casual kind that wavers with distraction or convenience. It's elemental. Once given, it's woven into the fabric of who they are. Scorpio doesn't love halfway. They don't hover at the threshold of affection, dipping a toe to see if it's safe. They step in completely, knowing they may never come back the same. Their love is an act of bravery, an emotional leap taken without a parachute, driven by faith in the connection they've chosen. They remember everything, not in a keeping score way, but as a way of holding you close. The way you laughed when you were nervous, the song that played the first night you kissed, the words you whispered when you didn't know they were listening. These aren't just memories to them, they're proof. Proof that something real once lived between two people, and therefore must be protected. Scorpio doesn't celebrate anniversaries by calendar, they celebrate them by feeling. They can recall the emotional weather of a moment years later, what your voice sounded like, how the air smelled, the precise texture of that shared heartbeat. But loyalty from a Scorpio must be earned, never assumed. They're generous with interest but guarded with trust. They'll watch you quietly, noting how you treat others, how you speak about the people who can't defend themselves, how you behave when no one's watching. Each observation is a data point in a silent equation. Can I trust you with my truth? If the answer is yes, their heart opens in a way that's irreversible. But if you break that trust, even once, the temperature drops to absolute zero. Betrayal to a Scorpio feels like oxygen being sucked from the room. It's not just hurt, it's annihilation. Because when they love, they hand over the deepest parts of themselves, the fears, the insecurities, the private corners no one else sees. To have that violated is to feel spiritually robbed. Forgiveness isn't impossible, but it's earned through time, through action, through unwavering honesty. And even then, the scar remains. Not as bitterness, but as a reminder of how much love costs when it's pure. Yet, despite their guardedness, Scorpios are not cynical. They love with astonishing devotion once trust is sealed. Their faith in connection runs deeper than most people's tolerance for risk. They'll stand beside you when the crowd disperses, defend you when you're wrong but sincere, and carry your pain as if it were their own. They don't love for convenience, they love for eternity. Their affection is never performative. Public displays of emotion aren't their style, not because they lack passion, but because their passion is too intimate for an audience. They don't need to prove their love through spectacle. They prove it through constancy. The text that comes when they sense your silence, the way they remember what you need before you ask, the unspoken promise that says, "I've got you," even in your chaos. In private, their love is an art form. It's slow, deliberate, and profound. They build intimacy in whispers, a hand brushed across your back when words are too heavy, a look that communicates entire conversations without sound. They adore the sacredness of secrecy, the quiet electricity of two people who don't need the world's validation because they already share something the world could never understand. To be loved by a Scorpio is to feel surrounded by a force, protective, consuming, and grounding all at once. Their loyalty wraps around you like armor. It shields you from doubt, from loneliness, from the noise of superficial affection. You'll never question where you stand, because they'll make sure you feel it, not through declarations, but through energy, through presence, through the unmistakable gravity of their devotion. And that gravity is powerful. It keeps you tethered even when life's chaos tries to pull you apart. You'll feel it in the middle of the night when you can't sleep, that quiet certainty that someone, somewhere, is still thinking of you with intensity that doesn't waver. Scorpio's love is not dependent on circumstance. It endures distance, silence, and even pain. But that same loyalty makes them vulnerable. When they love deeply, they hand over control, and for a sign built on self-mastery, that's a terrifying act. Loving someone gives another person the power to wound them, to see the tender places behind the armor. That's why they choose so carefully. That's why they test, observe, and analyze before surrendering. Once they do, though, their devotion becomes unshakable. If you're loved by a Scorpio, you'll learn that loyalty is not about possession. It's about presence. They don't need to own you, they just need to understand you. Their loyalty is not a cage, it's an ecosystem. It breathes, evolves, grows stronger over time. And when you return that same level of devotion, the connection transcends ordinary love. It becomes mythic, almost spiritual, the kind of bond that feels written into your very DNA. Scorpio doesn't promise forever with words. They show it, through patience, through protection, through silence that speaks louder than 1,000 reassurances. They become the keeper of your emotional history, the one person who remembers who you were before the world changed you. They don't just love who you are, they love the truth of you, the unfiltered, unguarded, complicated essence of your being. And if you lose that love, you'll feel the absence like missing gravity. Their silence isn't anger, it's finality. They don't unlove easily, but once they do, they never go back. They mourn privately, grieve deeply, and then they rise, stronger, wiser, more careful with their trust. Because loyalty to them isn't just about who they choose, it's about honoring themselves enough not to offer it where it's wasted. Their heart, once given, is both fortress and flame. It shelters, it warms, it burns away everything false. And when Scorpio truly loves, you'll know it in the way your life changes. You'll find yourself anchored by something unspoken yet undeniable, a connection that doesn't fade, doesn't bend, doesn't vanish in time's current. Because when Scorpio loves, it's not conditional, it's elemental, it's earth, water, fire, and air fused into something eternal, something that feels less like romance and more like destiny. Best friend matches, the signs that understand the depth. Scorpio doesn't connect easily with just anyone. Their energy is a frequency that hums beneath the surface, low and resonant, sometimes too intense for those who prefer life at face value. They are not built for small talk or polite exchanges. They crave bonds that feel carved from truth, trust, and shared transformation. For most people, that's too heavy, too revealing. But for a few, just a select few, that depth feels like home. With them, Scorpio's guard lowers, their laughter softens, and the steel around their heart warms into devotion. Cancer is one of those rare souls. When Cancer and Scorpio meet, it's like two rivers quietly finding each other and becoming one current. There's no need for performance between them. They communicate in glances, silences, and emotional shorthand. Cancer intuitively understands Scorpio's need for emotional privacy, the sacredness of their inner world. They don't push or pry, they invite. Cancer offers empathy like a blanket, soft but unyielding, wrapping Scorpio's storm in safety. In return, Scorpio offers protection, fierce, immovable, the kind that makes Cancer feel invincible just by standing next to them. Their friendship is a sanctuary. It doesn't exist for show, it exists for survival. When life wounds them, they retreat together into that cocoon of mutual understanding where words are optional and presence is everything. Cancer's moodiness doesn't scare Scorpio, it fascinates them. Scorpio's intensity doesn't overwhelm Cancer, it anchors them. Together they teach each other that vulnerability is not a weakness but a language. Then there's Pisces, the dreamer who swims effortlessly through Scorpio's emotional depths. Pisces doesn't just tolerate Scorpio's intensity, they breathe it in like oxygen. Their souls recognize each other instantly, two water signs fluent in empathy, mysticism, and the unspoken. Where Scorpio dives to analyze, Pisces drifts to imagine, turning emotional experience into art. Pisces paints with feelings, Scorpio sculpts with them. In this friendship, Pisces brings gentleness to Scorpio's power, a kind of spiritual lubrication that keeps the connection from combusting. They soften Scorpio's edges, teaching them the beauty of surrender without fear. Scorpio, in turn, grounds Pisces, giving their boundless imagination structure and purpose. They build dreams together, dreams that heal, inspire, and transcend logic. Their connection feels timeless, as if they've met in other lives, remembered each other through centuries, and promised to meet again whenever the world feels too loud. There's a quiet magic in how they move together. Pisces forgives Scorpio's sharpness, knowing it comes from self-protection, while Scorpio shields Pisces from exploitation, knowing how the world feeds on softness. They are different notes in the same song, melancholy and hope blending into harmony. It's a friendship of compassion, healing, and silent loyalty that rarely needs validation. And then there's Capricorn, the unexpected but formidable ally. On the surface, Scorpio's emotion and Capricorn's pragmatism seem like opposing forces. But underneath, they recognize something kindred: discipline. Both signs respect strength, not the loud kind, but the kind that stands quietly through storms. Scorpio admires Capricorn's endurance, their ability to stay focused when chaos reigns. Capricorn, in turn, respects Scorpio's passion, their refusal to settle for half-truths or half-effort. Where Scorpio burns, Capricorn builds. Where Scorpio imagines transformation, Capricorn makes it tangible. Together, they are power and structure, emotion and execution. Their friendship is a fortress, private, formidable, impossible to shake. They don't need constant affirmation or endless conversation. Their loyalty is proven in silence, in showing up, in doing what needs to be done. When Scorpio rages, Capricorn holds the line. When Capricorn doubts, Scorpio rekindles the fire. It's the kind of bond that grows stronger with time, not through excitement, but through mutual respect. Capricorn's practicality tempers Scorpio's impulsive nature, grounding their emotional storms into strategy. Scorpio, in turn, awakens Capricorn's hidden depths, reminding them that ambition without passion is just endurance without joy. They balance each other with quiet grace, often becoming lifelong allies who understand that loyalty doesn't need noise, it needs presence. It's the friendship that doesn't fade. It evolves, matures, and endures like stone shaped by fire. Scorpio's friendships with these signs, Cancer, Pisces, Capricorn, form a trinity of emotional, spiritual, and practical understanding. Each offers Scorpio something vital: safety, imagination, and structure. And in return, Scorpio gives what only they can: loyalty that borders on sacred, honesty that can be harsh but healing, and the kind of protection that feels ancestral. When Scorpio finds friends who can hold their depth without flinching, something inside them unclenches. They no longer have to hide the volcano beneath their composure. They laugh louder, dream wilder, and love more openly. Their loyalty becomes not a shield, but a gift. These friendships are rare not because Scorpio is selective for the sake of pride, but because they understand the cost of connection. To them, true friendship isn't built on convenience, it's built on truth. When a Scorpio calls you a friend, it means they've seen your darkness and chosen to stay anyway. It means they've weighed your flaws against your essence and found you worth trusting. They will defend you like family, guide you through your storms, and tell you the truth when no one else dares. Their loyalty will outlast distance and silence. their care will manifest in quiet gestures rather than declarations. And perhaps the greatest gift of being Scorpio's friend is that they make you braver. Their honesty strips away your pretense, their strength reminds you of your own, and their unwavering loyalty teaches you what commitment feels like in its purest form. They hold mirrors that show not who you pretend to be, but who you are when no one's watching. So, when Scorpio finds those few signs, Cancer, Pisces, Capricorn, who can swim their depths without drowning, who can stand their storms without retreating, they give back something rarer than gold. A friendship that feels like destiny. A loyalty that does not fade with time. A love that never needs explanation. Because once a Scorpio chooses you, you're not just in their life. You're in their soul. The difficult bonds, when the energy turns volatile. Not every sign can handle Scorpio's depth. Their energy is not gentle water. It's an undertow, beautiful to look at, terrifying to resist. To stand close to Scorpio is to feel the weight of honesty pressing against the easy comfort of illusion. For those who live on the surface, it can feel like drowning. They come near expecting warmth and find fire beneath the water. What begins as fascination can quickly become exhaustion, because to love a Scorpio is to be stripped of pretense, and not everyone is ready for that kind of naked truth. Take Gemini, for instance. At first, Gemini is enchanted by Scorpio's mystery. They see the glint in Scorpio's eyes and think, adventure. Gemini loves curiosity, variety, and novelty, and Scorpio seems like a puzzle wrapped in velvet and fire, irresistible. Conversations between them start like electric sparks. Scorpio is drawn to Gemini's wit, their verbal agility, the way they dance through ideas like a jazz musician riffing through scales. For a moment, it works. Scorpio feels alive, intrigued, seduced by Gemini's freedom. Gemini feels profound, awakened by Scorpio's intensity. But soon, the rhythm falters. Gemini needs air, movement, lightness. Their minds thrive on change. They need to talk, laugh, flit from subject to subject, keep life buoyant. Scorpio, by contrast, needs stillness, the quiet space where intimacy deepens. They want to peel back layers until nothing remains but truth. Where Gemini flirts with feeling, Scorpio inhabits it. It's not that Scorpio disapproves of Gemini's restlessness, it's that it leaves them starving. To Scorpio, Gemini's lightness feels evasive, as if emotion is a game rather than a gift. Soon Gemini begins to feel trapped in Scorpio's emotional gravity. The air starts thinning. They want to joke their way out of confrontation, but Scorpio reads avoidance as betrayal. Gemini wants to talk about feeling, Scorpio wants to feel feeling. The clash becomes inevitable. Gemini accuses Scorpio of being possessive or dramatic. Scorpio accuses Gemini of being shallow or inconsistent. Neither is wrong, they simply breathe different elements. Gemini needs air. Scorpio is water under pressure. When they try to mix, it creates mist, beautiful, fleeting, impossible to hold. Leo, too, can struggle in Scorpio's orbit. Both are powerful, passionate, and proud, but their fire burns in different directions. Leo seeks admiration, the joy of being seen and celebrated. Scorpio seeks connection, the intimacy of being known. Leo shines outward, dazzling, magnetic, needing reflection in the eyes of others. Scorpio hides inward, private, controlled, needing to trust before they reveal even a sliver of vulnerability. At first, the chemistry is undeniable. Both signs radiate magnetism, charisma, and the thrill of challenge. But soon, the relationship becomes a contest of wills. Leo wants warmth, praise, and recognition. Scorpio gives intensity, silence, and psychological probing. To Leo, Scorpio's secrecy feels like rejection. To Scorpio, Leo's need for constant spotlight feels like vanity. They love each other's strength but misunderstand its purpose. Leo leads with the heart. Scorpio leads with the soul. Leo's drama seems like display. Scorpio's intensity feels like interrogation. When conflict comes, and it will, neither backs down. Pride meets pride, and the room fills with heat that can't be contained. The tragedy of Leo and Scorpio is that they could be unstoppable if they learned to share power instead of competing for it. But ego stands in the way. Leo burns for adoration. Scorpio craves surrender. Both fear vulnerability for different reasons. Leo fears losing admiration, Scorpio fears losing control. And so, their story often ends not in hatred, but in fatigue. They love too fiercely and too differently to find peace. Then there's Aquarius, the brilliant, detached visionary who sees the world through logic and innovation. Scorpio finds Aquarius fascinating. Here's a mind that defies convention, a soul that refuses ownership, a spirit that seems utterly free. Aquarius intrigues Scorpio because they are the one person who cannot be easily read or emotionally cornered. That mystery is irresistible. Scorpio wants to understand them. Aquarius wants to observe Scorpio. The connection begins like a lightning strike, quick, cerebral, alive with potential. But over time, distance sets in. Scorpio lives for emotional intensity. Aquarius lives for intellectual independence. One craves fusion. The other needs space. Scorpio speaks in feeling, in silence, in glances that say more than words. Aquarius speaks in ideas, theories, and possibilities. They are fascinated by Scorpio's passion but uncomfortable with its demands. To Scorpio, Aquarius can seem cold, distant, detached, more interested in concepts than connection. To Aquarius, Scorpio can feel suffocating, too heavy, too entangled in emotional gravity. The polarity between them is magnetic at first, air electrifying water, but eventually, it becomes unsustainable. Aquarius sees love as freedom. Scorpio sees love as union. For Scorpio, intimacy is the merging of souls. For Aquarius, it's the coexistence of equals. Their languages don't translate easily. When Scorpio asks for vulnerability, Aquarius hears control. When Aquarius asks for space, Scorpio hears abandonment. They circle each other like planets locked in orbit, close enough to influence, too distant to touch. In all these difficult bonds, with Gemini, Leo, Aquarius, the same theme repeats: misunderstanding born from difference. Scorpio's emotional language is complex, raw, and nonlinear. They communicate through energy, through silence, through emotional truth that often makes others uncomfortable. When their intensity isn't met, it turns inward. Scorpio doesn't rage or chase, they withdraw. The silence that follows is not punishment but protection. It's their way of saving themselves from further depletion. To outsiders, that silence feels like ice. To Scorpio, it's survival. When their trust is broken or their depth misunderstood, they retreat into the shadows, nursing the wound until it becomes wisdom. They'll never expose their pain publicly, they transform it privately. The chill others feel after crossing a Scorpio isn't cruelty, it's closure. It's the sound of a door quietly locking, never to reopen. What makes these relationships volatile isn't malice or incompatibility. It's timing, it's awareness, it's the difference between swimming and standing on shore. Scorpio needs partners and friends who can dive deep, who aren't afraid of emotional intensity, who see silence not as distance but as depth. Gemini, Leo, and Aquarius live on different wavelengths, one of air, one of fire, one of intellect, while Scorpio thrives in the currents beneath all three. And yet, even in these difficult bonds, Scorpio learns something valuable. From Gemini, they learn the beauty of lightness, that not every truth needs to be dissected. From Leo, they learn confidence without apology, the art of shining without fear. From Aquarius, they learn detachment, the wisdom of loving without losing oneself. Each difficult connection leaves a scar and a lesson, both cherished in equal measure. Scorpio's challenge is not to avoid these volatile bonds but to understand them, to see that not every deep soul needs to be mirrored, and not every storm needs to be survived. Sometimes, the lesson of intensity is balance. Sometimes, the hardest love is the one that teaches Scorpio to release, to forgive, to move on without losing their depth. Because even when the energy turns volatile, even when the silence settles in, Scorpio remains who they are, a being of depth, devotion, and transformation. They may burn bridges, but they always build wisdom from the ashes. And that, in the end, is their truest kind of loyalty, to themselves, to their truth, and to the power of feeling that never fades. The evolution. Scorpio's path to freedom and fulfillment. At their highest vibration, Scorpios learn that control is not the same as power, and that vulnerability, far from being weakness, is liberation itself. The journey of a Scorpio is not linear. It's cyclical, spiraling through darkness and light, destruction and rebirth. They are born to transform, to die many symbolic deaths, and to resurrect stronger, clearer, freer. Every experience in their life, every love, loss, obsession, betrayal, serves a singular purpose: awakening. To be a Scorpio is to live perpetually in the process of becoming. Their earliest instincts drive them toward control. They seek it in their relationships, in their emotions, in their own hidden fears. Control, to them, feels like safety. The assurance that pain can be managed, that vulnerability won't lead to annihilation. But the irony is that this grip suffocates the very intimacy they crave. Their power begins to evolve when they understand that control isolates, while surrender connects. This awakening rarely comes easily. It begins after heartbreak, the kind that rips the soul open, the kind that strips away illusion. In the ashes of that loss, Scorpio discovers a truth they can't unlearn: that love cannot be possessed, only experienced. They learn that freedom is not found in domination or secrecy, but in trust. And when they finally exhale, when they let go of the need to anticipate every wound, they realize that real power is not about who holds the reins, it's about who can stay open, even in uncertainty. Their sexuality transforms alongside their soul. What once was a battlefield of power becomes a temple of union. Scorpio learns that pleasure without presence is empty, and that true ecstasy is born from emotional nakedness, not performance. Sex stops being conquest and becomes communion. They begin to understand that intimacy is not the surrender of strength, but the celebration of it, the mutual unveiling of truth. In this stage, Scorpio's touch changes. It softens. It becomes an offering rather than a demand, a prayer rather than a challenge. Every connection becomes a mirror. In love, they see their own reflection, every insecurity, every wound, every yearning they once tried to bury. At first, they resist it, mistaking the mirror for the enemy. But eventually, they realize that the people who challenge them most are not there to break them, they're there to awaken them. Scorpio's evolution lies in learning to face their own reflection without flinching. Every heartbreak becomes rebirth, every betrayal becomes wisdom. And through this constant burning and rebuilding, they embody the phoenix, the eternal symbol of Scorpio's path. The phoenix doesn't fear the fire, it becomes the fire. In destruction, it finds freedom. In surrender, it finds flight. Scorpio's life follows that same rhythm, burning away what no longer serves them, shedding layers of ego, emerging lighter each time. Pain, for them, is not punishment. It's purification. When Scorpio learns to share their passion without fear, they stop hiding behind mystery. Their magnetism, once built on secrecy, begins to radiate from authenticity. People no longer flock to them because they're enigmatic. They're drawn because Scorpio has become real. Raw, unfiltered, alive. They realize that being seen isn't a threat, it's a gift. They stop guarding the gates of their heart and begin to open them, not recklessly but wisely. And in doing so, they discover that the truest form of control is not holding back, it's choosing when and how to give. Their friendships, too, evolve. They move from needing loyalty as proof of worth to offering it as an act of grace. Their love stops being a test and becomes a refuge. They learn to forgive, not because others deserve it, but because Scorpio deserves peace. Their emotional landscape, once filled with extremes, begins to balance. Passion still lives there, yes, but so does compassion. Intensity remains, but it no longer consumes. It transforms. Freedom for Scorpio doesn't mean detachment, it means choosing connection without fear of loss. It means loving without expectation, trusting without control, and speaking truth without armor. It's the kind of freedom that comes only after surviving one's own darkness, after diving so deep into pain that the only way out is light. Scorpio learns to alchemize emotion into empathy, desire into creation, and wounds into wisdom. When they reach this level of consciousness, their energy shifts entirely. They become magnetic not because they hide, but because they glow. There's something about them, a serenity that comes from knowing who they are and what they've survived. People feel safe in their presence, not because Scorpio is soft, but because they are solid. Their depth no longer intimidates, it heals. They stop attracting chaos and start inspiring transformation in others. To fall into the orbit of an evolved Scorpio is to enter sacred territory. You won't just be loved, you'll be seen. They will look through you, yes, but not to expose, to understand. They'll notice what you hide, not to control it, but to honor it. With them, you'll feel the rare relief of being recognized, of being met where words fail. They challenge you to rise to your own potential because they live as proof that rebirth is possible. Scorpio's evolution is the hero's journey of emotion. They begin as the seeker of control and end as the embodiment of faith. They learn that the heart's true strength lies not in defense but in openness. Every phase, the obsession, the heartbreak, the withdrawal, the resurrection, serves as a chapter in their story of awakening. By the end, they are no longer driven by fear of betrayal. They are guided by trust in transformation. Because for Scorpio, sex isn't a game, love isn't a performance, and intimacy isn't a pastime. It's the fire through which they find themselves. They are drawn to experiences that strip away the false, that force them into contact with what's real. They know that only by burning can something new emerge, and so they keep burning, beautifully, purposefully, until what remains is pure. If you're lucky enough to be invited into that fire, don't be afraid. You're entering a realm where emotion is sacred, where truth is worshipped, where transformation is inevitable. Scorpio won't leave you untouched, they'll leave you altered. You'll be challenged, yes, but also awakened. You'll shed something false and find something true. You may even feel healed, not because they fixed you, but because they showed you what healing looks like from the inside out. And when you finally step away, you'll understand something profound. Sometimes, the most dangerous love is also the most divine. Scorpio's fire destroys illusions but preserves essence. It burns away fear, pride, and ego until only the soul remains, luminous, liberated, reborn. That's their evolution, from shadow to light, from control to trust, from secrecy to serenity. In their highest form, Scorpio becomes not the keeper of darkness, but its master, the one who can walk through the fire and return, carrying the flame of truth in open hands. If you enjoyed this exploration of Scorpio's passionate depths, don't forget to subscribe, share your thoughts in the comments, and stay tuned for more stories about the Zodiac's hidden truths.